Willkommen. Willkommen in der Hölle.
Das gibt es doch nicht.
Oh doch, glaube deinen Augen. Dich hätte ich mir schon vor langer Zeit schnappen sollen.
Nein, bitte. Es gibt kein Hellworld. Das existiert nicht.
Dein Sohn war das reinste Wunderkind. Er öffnete das Tor zur Hölle. Du hast selbst nie daran geglaubt, nicht wahr?
Ich muss aufwachen. Ich muss aufwachen. Ich muss aufwachen. Aufwachen!
Wie gefällt dir mein Weckruf?
Hellraiser is one of those movies that always comes to mind when speaking of the classics, and there is a good reason for it. See, Hellraiser isn't any movie. It's kinda unique in its way to present the content it has, being it gore or sexual content, and the story itself is a frightening and very disturbing one. And who are to forget the main characters, the Cenobite. The movie itself begins with Larry, played by Andrew Robinson, and Julia, played by Claire Higgins, move in together in an older house they has purchased, unaware of what hideous creature inhabits the upper floor. While moving furniture to the upper floor, Larry cuts himself deep and the blood spills on the room's floor, and while being rushed to the hospital, Julia discovers a fleshy, crawling corpse that asks her for help. This is Frank, Larry's half-brother and Julia's former lover. Frank has been gone for a while and people thought he disappeared freely, but that seems not to be the case. Frank wants blood to be able to regenerate his earthly body and asks Julia for help. He also tells her about being hunted by demons from hell that wants his soul back, the Cenobites, and that Julia needs to hurry to gather human sacrifices. Frank got trapped there by the now iconic puzzle box, the Merchant's box with the Lament configuration, and by solving it, he gave his soul away for the ultimate experience of pain and pleasure that only the Cenobites can provide in hell. This being the first movie's plot, most Hellraiser movies follow a similar pattern which centers around the box and the Cenobites. The movie wasn't all that well received by critics when it came out, but the fact that Hellraiser really tested the boundaries of what can and cannot be shown in a bigger movie, and it kinda shows because most other gore movies of this caliber was smaller budget and not big screen movies. What Hellraiser also do very well is to dwell into the forbidden or darker areas of our sexuality, in which the morals of the common folk seems to be scared of even knowing about. And he put it right there for everyone to see. Whips, hooks, needles, pain, suffering, dominance, sadism and masochism right on the big screen. Although it was Clive Barker's directorial debut, it wasn't the first he'd written on the subject. He wrote a horror novella that got published in 1986 in the Night Visions novella collections published by Dark Harvest. This novella was what would inspire Hellraiser franchise to come only 1 year later. The novella's name is The Hellbound Heart, and if you want a deeper, more full experience of Hellraiser, I suggest you go pick it up. Being the movie that it was, during the late production the movie had some issues with censorship, and that was not due to the violence really, but to the erotic scenes in the movie. Funnily enough, they thought the sex scenes were too explicit and wanted them more violent than they already were, which Clive Barker himself remarks on. Well, we did have a slight problem with the eroticism. I shot a much harder flashback sequence than they would allow us to cut in. Mine was more explicit and less violent. They wanted to substitute one kind of an undertow for another. I had a much more explicit sexual encounter between Frank and Julia, but they said no, let's take out the sodomy and put in the flick knife. They also stated that there was other scenes cut, like gut exposing, brain explosions, a nude murder scene. The MPAA even stated they were only allowed to show 2 buttock thrusts in one scene, since 3 would be deemed obscene. Yeah. This also comes to show how important it is to actually test the boundaries and try to push the limits around, and I think Hellraiser actually opened up a lot of other directors eyes in what they were able to do, and so it influenced what we see today, a more brave horror scene in which they at least tried to do stuff without getting cut. Without movies like Hellraiser, we wouldn't know how far we can take it, and it is important to do so in the name of art. Thankfully, the censorship has been declining over the years and has taken a big step back so that we can see the artist's visions actually come to life for real, and Hellraiser is one of them. And in the time of remakes, which I have talked about before in a previous video, I had to make a quick research in seeing why Hellraiser hadn't had a remake yet. And it was actually announced by Dimension Films in 2006 and a director was set for the remake. However, due to artistic differences, the movie was scrapped. Which we can be happy about because Clive Barker later announced in October 2013 that he already sealed the deal with Dimension Films and that he himself would write and direct the movie and no one else. And that is something to look forward to. I also urge anyone that is into the series to actually watch the sequels. They are not even half bad movies. Most of them are actually really good and enjoyable and got some really good scenes in them. So don't forget those movies as well. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you guys next time.